Hello everybody and welcome to the On-Wine Fair, the first Italian wines virtual exhibition. On-Wine Fair is the international digital event where Italian winemakers share the unique features of their wines with importers, distributors and retailers in 122 countries in the world. The guest of today is Nicola ERMACORA of the winery ERMACORA, located in Friuli in the northeast of Italy. In the next 15 minutes, you will learn more about the winery and its incredible wines. During the webinar, you can download some documents that ERMACORA wants to share with you, and you can also write your question in the live chat. And I remind you that if you would like to know more about the winery's proposal and talk directly to Nicola, you can book a one-to-one video call just by using the link you can find in the webinar confirmation email or on the On-Wine Fair official page. You can choose the date and time that you prefer. And now it's time to start. Welcome, Nicola. You can start your presentation.
Hello. Well, as you said, my name is Nicola, and I'm the fourth generation of winemakers in the Friuli, and more precisely Moscapade and Iplis, so in the hills, in the heart of Friuli Colle Orientali. Well, when it comes to wine, as many of you know, it's impossible to talk about ourselves without giving some context, right? So Friuli, well, we're talking about Italy, as you Vanessa mentioned, but in the most northern part of Italy. In such a short time, it's impossible to go through over all the things that make this region so unique. But I want to stress a concept. So a concept of diversity when it comes to this region. It's diversity in terms of environment. As you can see, our hills, so the main picture, are just in the middle between the mountains who are protecting our vineyards from the cold winds and the seaside. So in 45 minutes you can be downhill skiing, and in 45 minutes you can be in one of the most famous regatta that there is in Europe. But it's not just an environmental difference. It's also a cultural, let's say a pool of cultural differences. And this can be seen in the wines as well as in the food, for example. So in a city that is by the seaside, the main dish, the most important dish, is Jota, which is sauerkraut with sausage and beans, which is something that you would associate with Austria, which is correct because this was the only seaside port of the Austro-Hungarian kingdom. And this can be reflected totally in the wines that are made in this area. But when I say that we are in the middle between the seaside and the mountains, I already mentioned it. Specifically, we're in the Friuli Colle Orientali appellation, and as you can see, this is our winery. And on one side, you would see the seaside in a crystal clear day, and on the other side, you would see the mountains. What makes it unique in the area, along with the differences that we have said, and of which we're just one of the many interpreters of these cultural and differences and terroir, it's of course the soil. Here the soil is pure, it's a poor inorganic substance. There is lots of minerality, which gives what is probably most characteristic about our wines, which is white wine with the longevity of a red wine. So these are full-bodied wines, very tasty, and they can age for 10, 15, 20 years easily, which is something that, it's very, very peculiar, especially when it comes to white wine. So this was a challenging exercise to summarize in just 3 minutes what, the environment where we are. Environment that will not, when it comes to the French word terroir, as is just one of the components of wine. The other part is, like the culture we are and the winery themselves. And here we would like to talk a bit about ourselves. So our origin, it's something that's shared with many wineries year round. So it started out, my family used to work for the local landlord, and we started with only 4 hectares in 1922. We had 3 cows, a horse in common with a neighbor to work the land, but don't think about like 200 years ago or 300 years ago. This was like my father and my uncle. And the first huge milestone was implemented by my grandfather, who was brave enough to support and follow and trust the passion of my uncle and my father, the two people that you see on the left in the picture. So we're about to celebrate our 100th year, which is a huge accomplishment, especially for this area of Italy. And we started with 4 hectares, and today we can count on 70 hectares. 70 hectares that, as you can see in the pictures, are all on the hills. But it's not just about vineyards. So we're not just the gatekeepers of famous crews such as Moscapade or Ripley's, but we're also the gatekeepers of biodiversity. I know that this word is somehow also abused in a sense recently. So you hear a lot of talks about biodiversity, and even when they don't, like, it doesn't mean anything. But in our case, just to give you a number, then we'll go a bit deeper. We also take care of 30 hectares of bushes and forest, as you can see, for example, in the picture. And of course, there we cannot grow grapes, but they're just as crucial as our vines, because we see from my uncle experience, he has been making wine for 70 years. So he has 55 vintages, because the life of a winemaker is measured in vintages. There is bushes help us to create all these like microclimates, and they somehow channel the wind, the humidity, all the fauna, the little animal, the parasites, and so on and so forth. So we give as much attention to the bushes as we do to the vines there, to the vineyards. And this is helping us to overcome the problems that several areas around the world with single cultures, like, for example, hectares and hectares of soya bean or vine themselves, are facing, problems of growing stronger fungus or bacteria or virus, in a sense. But how do we make sure that we preserve such environment? So we start from the assumption that just by the simple fact of living and breathing and coming to life, we have an impact. Just by breathing, we create CO2. We litter, even if we would have to live in the forest naked, So we start from the assumption that we have an impact, and we strive and work every day to cause no unnecessary impact. So to limit as much as possible and ideally bring it to zero. Here are just 5 examples. I could give you like hundreds of what we're doing. So we're eliminating herbicides. And for example, my cousin, Demis ERMACORA, is an agronomist, and he is also a little bit of a creator. And he has just prototyped a machinery that dries unwanted weeds through microwaves, which is something that has never been implemented worldwide. And we are testing and developing the tools. So as of today, we are only 40% of our vineyards are we use herbicides, but every year we manage to bring it close to zero, and it's our goal in 2 to 3 years. We then follow the integrated pest control. What does it mean? We have implemented this integrated pest control by working with Giovanni Bigot, which is a visionary agronomist, which has developed an app where we can monitor, track, and trace every single plot. So every 3 to 4 days, and anyone who walks in our vineyards from our, like collaborators and then workers can take a picture of a vine or write something that has seen, and this has helped us to intervene with pest control that are less impactful only if needed and only when needed. So for example, if there is no humidity and we don't have any like sign of an eventual pest, then we don't do anything, and this has helped us to reduce treatments by 20%. And as of today, we do less treatments than a local bio winery. Of course, this is not certified by a third party, but it's what we like to do, and we like to, we feel to work about. You know that when it comes to great white wines, the key is temperature control, and temperature control is really resource consuming. For this reason, we started a cycle in 2010 to implement solar panels on all the roofs of the winery. And as of 2019, so when the project came to an end, we can finally declare that we have reached a zero carbon electricity balance, meaning that in a yearly cycle, we produce more electricity than the amount of electricity we need. Then, just last, we work towards a reasonable yield. What does it mean? Well, the last 2 points are connected. So with a reasonable yield, we can ensure that our vineyards are healthy, which this also connects to the second point of using less pesticides, but also to have more healthy and long-living vineyards. As of today, our average yield is 6,500 kilograms per hectare, which is 60% of the DOC standard. And our oldest vineyard is 63 years old, and the average age, which is even more important, of our vines is 30. And any new implant is made from vines that come from our own vineyards. What does it mean? That these are all vines that have been used to live there for so long, for 63 years, and they're truly local. So we've talked about our approach a little bit in the agronomist approach, so in the field. But how do we translate this in our wine credo? So how do we deliver the terroir that we've talked about in the beginning, so the diversity and all the effort we put to have no necessary impact in nature? We do it through three main pillars. So first of all, we only use estate-grown grapes. What does it mean? That every single drop of wine that goes out of the cellar doors is made with our own vines and vineyards. So we decide if a plot, for example, is better vocated for a specific grape or for the bushes, for example, because it helps us to preserve diversity and biodiversity. And this somehow ensures that we keep faith to one of the most fascinating things when it comes to wine, which is the different vintages. So you will feel in our wines the impact of a vintage. So if you're looking for an industrial wine that is always the same, that is always, emotionless in a sense, it is not our wine. However, we are aware that we need to ensure fantastic quality regardless of the vintage, or at least the best quality possible. And how do we do this? We do it through single parcel vinification, meaning that we have different attentions. So as we did with the app, for example, that I told you at the second point in the previous slide, we know that specific parcel and a specific behavior, and we know this is like 10 years now. We trace it down all in this app with pictures and data, and also, for example, weather forecast. So we know that, for example, that specific plot of Friulano will probably be more characteristic if vinified at a specific temperature, with a specific heat, and so on, with a specific yeast, and so on and so forth. So we separate the vineyards in parcels, and this is a way to respect their characteristic, but also a way to ensure that we always have a very high quality, because when it comes the moment to bottle the wine and to make the blend, we have in our hands, for example, when it comes to Friulano, we have 10 different expressions of Friulano. So it's like, let's say that we're just a director of orchestra and we have 10 different instruments and we have to make a fantastic song or a fantastic plot and opera. And this is what we do. Last thing is that we focus on monovarietal. What does it mean? That how a single varietal wine in basically all the appellations can be made with 85% of such grape and 15% of another grape. In our case, we only do 100% single grape wines. So that would mean that if you open a bottle of our Friulano, that would be 100% Friulano. So we said we respect, to wrap it up, we respect the different vintage, we respect the different plots, and we respect the single grape that grows in those plots. This translates, of course, in several things. Among all, it's also some awards. Here, these slides will be shared, so I will not go down into many details. But just to talk about the very last one, we have just been given the gold medal, to our Piccoli 2016 from the Decanter World Wine Awards, which as many of you know, is this worldwide competition. And this year they've tasted 16,518 wines, and only 82 gold medals have been awarded to Italy, and one of them was our Piccoli. So we feel that we're towards the right path with all this really attention to detail, to single grape, and so on and so forth. And in a sense, it is paying off. At least it's making us happy, and we hope also makes our importers and customers happy. We talk about importers, but how do we work with importers? This is a slide that I like because we don't work with importers, but we work with wine evangelists. All the people who have been working with have been working with us and sharing our wine dream for years. Our main importer has been working with us for 30 years now. So we really work with a strong commitment. We are never looking for immediate double-digit growth. You know, we've been there for 100 years. We don't care about waiting more years to share our wines. We just care that our wines are shared properly and that we are happy and that our importers or customers are happy. We're not looking for speculative in and out purchase or for unreasonable price oriented requests. Like, this is our offer, so people know how much more or less our wines might be worth. Of course, we're keen to partner with people that have a wide portfolio, that are seeking for, we're seeking for fun professionals mostly, because wine is fun at the end of the story. And we're, you know, happy to work with people that are willing to build the market together. And how do we do that? We do that with, for example, also marketing budget, which for family wineries like ours is something not so common. So we usually work also with marketing budget, and we define a plan that has not volumes as the first criteria, but is mostly about, again, sharing vision of this market and sharing a path on this market. We have a portfolio of 14 wines, and so it would be hard to somehow squeeze them, and it would be frustrating to squeeze all of them in the last 4 minutes of this presentation. So I decided to focus on just one wine that, yeah, maybe it's not the wine that is most famous in terms of export, but it's the white wine of Friuli-Venezia Giulia, as I've written here, the icon of Friuli-Venezia Giulia. This one is called Friulano, and I like to start from the grape shape, which is a little like angel in a sense. You see the body and the two wings, because somehow this angel of the variety reached our hills from Loira, as you can see in the first picture. So up there in France, in Loira, it was always considered the dumb cousin of Sauvignon. So it was called Sauvignonas, so like bad Sauvignon or second level Sauvignon. But then in Friuli, somehow it finds the perfect like balance, and it's what I really like about this wine is that I like to call it a pajama wine. So it's a wine that makes you always feel comfortable. For example, every time I go to some friends for dinner, well, not now, but I hope I'll do soon. But when I visit some friends and I don't know, you know, what they will be cooking, or if it's going to be just an aperitivo or a easy chit chat or a 5 courses meal, I always bring with me a bottle of Friulano, because it's a very full-bodied white wine that can go along with aperitivo or even sushi, you know, very light light taste, but it also can pair well with white meat, for example. So you know, you will always feel comfortable with such wine. And what I like to call it is that Friulano is a bit of the pizza margherita, in a sense, of wine production of a winery in Friuli-Venezia Giulia. So it's that wine that if you taste it, then you understand the style of a winery and how this winery interprets the terroir of the area. Just to give you some hints, but you can see it from the picture, the typical aromas are peach and the bitter mandel, the bitter almond. Well, as I said, it was hard to squish 14 wines in 4 minutes, but it's even harder and impossible to summarize 100 years of history of our winery and millennials of history of our terroir in 20 minutes. But I hope I managed to somehow grasp on your curiosity. And well, if you would like to stay in touch, if you would like to receive our price list or selling condition, if you're an importer, you would like to know if we're already representing your country, or if you are an account and you would simply know how to get your wines in your country, just contact me. I'll be happy to do some wine talking. And here you can see my phone, my WhatsApp, which is also my mobile phone, and my email. So yeah, that was all for the presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Nicola. It was very interesting. You said during your presentation that your wines reflect the vintages. So just to close up this webinar, how was the harvest this year, and what will we expect from the 2020 vintage that has been kind of a strange year for many reasons?
Yeah, well, by continuing this exercise of summarizing everything in like very few minutes, I will summarize the vintage of this year in one word, which is equilibrium. So it's a vintage that had, you know, no peaks in terms of weather, in terms of like rain or sunshine or sun exposure. So it's really a very well equilibrated vintage. So you will find it's probably really typical of what a vintage would look like here, you know. So the alcohol content will not be too high as, for example, 2012 or 2019, for example. It's interesting because in white wines we had different levels of maturity due to a particular spring. So we had to harvest in different times. And in some vineyards, we decided to harvest all together. So we somehow managed to bring in natural acidity, but also very good ripeness, all in the same plant. So it was something that we've never seen before. In a sense, it's sad to have such wines in such a bad year.
Well, at least something good in this year will happen, I think. So,
For sure.
well, thank you very much, Nicola. So I hope you all enjoyed the webinar, and don't forget to book your one-to-one video call with Nicola for further information. Thank you all for watching, and see you at the next webinar of On-Wine Fair. And just to close up, as we always say, viva il vino italiano. Goodbye.
Viva il vino italiano. Ciao.
Vazon Group, the bridge between research and enology. We develop integrated, synergistic solutions to create new technologies, while always focusing on total wine quality improvement. Beginning with the concept of mild technology, our process philosophy for only creating subtle changes without altering the wine's original and natural characteristics. Throughout the years, we constantly expand and grow our portfolio of enological equipment and products, forever paying special attention to environmental sustainability and wine quality. In conjunction with the use of continually enhanced enological coadjuvants, we rely upon the creation and application of physical separation technique equipment, which we developed under the brand and company Douglas. 1988 Flotation. 1997 Tartaric stabilization by membrane. 2017 Bipolar membranes. A recent upgrade to the electrodialysis unit is the addition of brand new bipolar membranes for acidification and deacidification of musts and wines. cationic or anionic membranes that enable the precise removal of ions in wine, directly impacting pH and preserving the wine's original organoleptic characteristics. Assisting winemakers around the world to create expressive wines with minimal but essential intervention, we indefinitely pursue the concept of precision enology.